Hello, San Jose Unified families. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rigo Palacios, and I am the manager for the Office of Family Engagement. Today, we are providing an overview for parents about the CAASPP assessment system. Assessments occur at various points throughout the year to measure student growth and progress, and the springtime is when most state assessments are scheduled. With that window approaching, we offer this webinar to provide information that we hope will support you and your child with the CAASPP assessment. We will begin the way we begin all of our webinars by sharing our San Jose Unified District vision, and that is preparing today's students to be the thinkers, leaders, and creators of tomorrow. Across our district, our staff work hard to ensure that we are doing our best to prepare students for their next and future steps in their educational and professional careers. The four objectives for the presentation are to provide an overview and context for the CAASPP system, look at some sample test items, review test score reports so you know how to interpret the information you receive, and provide resources for supporting your child with the CAASPP. So let's start by becoming a little more familiar with the CAASPP test system. CAASPP stands for the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. There have been several iterations of state testing over the years in the state of California, and CAASPP has been in place since 2014, aligning with the introduction of the Common Core state standards, and it includes more rigorous assessments than previous iterations of the tests, which were mainly multiple choice. The CAASPP is not a single test. It is a statewide assessment system that includes tests in a variety of content areas taken annually by students in grades 3 through 8 and 11 or 12. It is a way for the state of California to assess student progress that is evaluated, reported, and then made accessible to schools and to the public. The CAASPP is designed to provide a statewide measure of student progress in key academic areas such as reading, math, and science. It's important to keep in mind that even though it is an indicator, there are other data considered by schools to determine student growth over the course of the year. CAASPP results can be used by schools and districts to set goals for the school year based on the previous year's data. As an example, if 50% of students demonstrated proficiency in reading, the school or district may set a growth target area that builds on the previous year's results, either by grade, by individual student, or by student subgroup. And it can also help plan for how to further support the students who did not meet the proficiency goal. The CAASPP is one of the benchmarks used for end-of-year progress on the school plan for student achievement. CAASPP results can also help determine the effectiveness of a particular academic strategy or action. If a school implements an academic program or initiative, for example, a before or after school tutoring class, the results can indicate how much growth participating students made and can help decision makers with funding or implementing the following year, perhaps even abandoning the strategy if it didn't work. At the individual student level, performance on the CAASPP will not impact the student's grades or their GPA, and it is not a requirement for promotion to the following grade or for graduation. However, previous CAASPP scores may be considered for initial placement in courses at the beginning of the following school year, such as reading or math support classes if the student shows a need for extra help. For students who are seeking advanced math placement in middle school or working towards English language reclassification, the pursuit of bilingualism, or the seal of biliteracy, prior year CAASPP scores are one of the criteria used to determine eligibility in conjunction with other performance assessments and class performance. In the interest of time, I won't diverge to a full discussion on those placement opportunities, but I will provide contact information at the end of this presentation in case you have additional questions about those processes. On a macro level, results are included in the calculation of the California Dashboard Reporting Tool. The dashboard is an online tool that helps parents and members of the public view the performance information of schools and districts in a variety of content areas, such as English language arts, science, and other areas of need. The dashboard's intended goal is to provide information for educators, parents, and the general community so they can participate in discussions and decisions to improve student learning in their schools. Here's a visual overview of the CAASPP system, and many times you'll see this image of the umbrella under which all of the assessment components of the CAASPP system are listed. So the CAASPP, again, is a system that includes several summative, which are end-of-year assessments for students across several grades and content areas. Under the CAASPP umbrella are the English, Language Arts, and Mathematics summative assessments, many times known better as the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium, or SBAC. These are taken by students in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11 and include computer adaptive tests and performance tasks. And I'll speak more to how those tests work. The California Science Test, also referred to with the acronym of CAST, C-A-S-T, is taken by students in grades 5, 8, and then either 11 or 12. The high school CAST is assigned dependent on when the student has completed their required science coursework in high school. The English Language Arts, Mathematics, and Science tests also include an alternate assessment or alternative assessment known as the California Alternative Assessment, and this is available for only some of our students. More information on that will also be provided later in the presentation. The physical fitness test is also part of the CAASPP system and is taken by students in grades 5, 7, and 9. The English Language Proficiency Assessments for California, or LPAC, as it's most commonly referred to, are taken by all students in grades K through 12 who are enrolled as English learners or students who are learning English as a second language in our schools. The physical fitness and English language development assessments may occur outside of the March or May window that I'll be referring to shortly, and all of the other assessments previously shared here will likely occur within that March to May timeframe. What can students expect? So the testing window will open on March 16th and run through May 8th, but students will not be testing for this entire timeframe. The various tests will be scheduled for the appropriate students by each school, and the schools will then communicate the schedule to their families. Schools may be implementing a modified schedule to allow for longer uninterrupted periods of time during the testing blocks. Many schools will schedule their testing in the morning so that students are taking the tests when they are more alert, less tired, and students will usually test with the same content area teacher. So as an example, for students in secondary, middle, or high school, they will take the English Language Arts test with their English teacher, their math test with the math teacher. For elementary schools, they will take their assessment with their homeroom teacher, which will likely be the same teacher throughout the course of the day. All of the assessments are computer-based, and there are two types of assessment types that they will be taking. So they will take computer adaptive tests and performance tasks for the assessments. Computer adaptive testing is a customized experience that will vary for every student. During the test, the difficulty of questions changes based on the student responses, providing more precise information about student achievement in less time than a fixed form test in which all students see the same set of questions. The initial question for the test is in the medium range of grade level difficulty. From there, the assessment will ensure a variety of questions from the grade level, taken from the grade level standards, adjusting to complexity based on their responses. So all students may start with a similar question, but they won't end up in the exact same place. Performance tasks are composed of a set of questions centered on a common topic that measures capacities such as depth of understanding and complex analysis. The Smarter Balanced Consortium of Assessments includes both computer adaptive tests and performance tasks in mathematics and in English Language Arts. Even though there will be modified schedules and students will be working within a defined testing block, they really will have as much time as needed to complete the assessments. If a student were to need more time at the end of a 90-minute or 2-hour testing block, they will be allowed to exit the test and continue at a later time. Each school has a testing coordinator who will work with the school staff. And one of the roles of the coordinator is to ensure communication with the classroom teachers to identify the best time to have the students continue and complete the test if they didn't finish within their testing block. If students are absent during any portions of the test, they will be able to make it up at a later time, as is standard practice with any classwork or other school assessments. We do know and acknowledge that absences may occur suddenly, but we encourage families as best as possible to make appointments outside of the testing windows so that a student's day is not disrupted. When students miss and they're pulled from class at a later date to complete the assessment due to either absences or arriving late to school, they will likely be missing other content that is happening in their class at that time. And they're also less likely to focus when they're in an alternate setting. So they may feel more comfortable testing in their classroom with their teacher as opposed to testing in another room with students perhaps not in their classroom and a teacher that they've never worked with before for the makeup time frame. With regard to test security, there are very similar expectations to other assessments that students may have taken part in, such as expecting students to work independently without the support of their peers. And however, the state of California has additional requirements for students and staff around the CAASPP. No electronic devices are allowed, no cells, no smartwatches, except for the laptop or the Chromebook that the student is using for the test. If a student needs a particular device for a medical condition, accommodations can be made. Students will also use a secure testing browser on their Chromebooks, which won't allow them to navigate away from the test or open other browser windows. Teachers will be taking time in class to have students practice logging into the testing system, accessing the secure browser, and ensuring that students know how to find the correct tests, and as well as using all the tools available to them during the assessments. Now that we have some context about the assessment and what students can expect on testing days, let's take a look now at some sample test items. Due to time constraints, I won't be able to review or share examples for all the content areas and all the grades, but I can provide links for you before we are finished tonight, and we'll send along with the recording for you to explore those more in depth if you choose. So we'll begin with an example from the 4th grade Computer Adaptive Test in English Language Arts. Computer Adaptive Tests, again, students will begin with a middle range, in this case, 4th grade question, and then from there, based on their responses, the questions may vary. In English Language Arts, students will be assessed in various skills such as reading comprehension. They'll be assessed on vocabulary and also writing. Students, for this example, will read the passage and answer the questions provided. And it appears that there are 9 questions for this particular one here. In this question, students are asked to select 2 details from the passage that support an inference. They can reread the passage as many times as needed to complete the questions, and then they select their best answers from those provided. Just above the question on the right-hand side, you'll see 3 small icons with a green, 3 circles with green icons within them. Those are tools available to students for use during the test. Most students will have access to the same tools. However, depending on the test, we'll see that those tools will vary. But they have access to a line reader as one of their tools. The line reader, when selected, will allow them to highlight lines in the text so that if a student feels more comfortable reading using the line reader, they can assure themselves of not skipping any lines as they read through the passage. They also have a zoom out and zoom in button so they can enlarge the text on the screen or minimize the text on the screen so that they are better able to access it as they are reading. Teachers during the course of the assessments will be monitoring students as they work. They'll provide encouragement to do their best and will prompt them to select a response so they don't leave any blank questions, but they can support students with responses. Here's an example from the 7th grade English Language Arts performance task. And the performance task, again, is a complex task that will require students to apply multiple skills to respond to a problem. For this particular example, they are given instructions, and those instructions state that they will be reading multiple sources of information on a topic, and then they're going to complete the task that they're provided, which will involve comparing those sources of information that they read, citing evidence from those sources, and then writing an explanatory article on the topic related to the sources they read. Students here will have, in addition to the line reader and the zoom in and zoom out tools, they have a note-taking tool option to help them track their ideas so they can jot down their notes as they're reading the sources, and then they can use those notes when they begin to write their responses. The computer adaptive tests and performance tasks are typically assigned on separate days, so the students won't be taking both of the assessments on the same day. Because again, they are very time intensive. So to ensure that they are not exhausted from testing, they'll be assigned on separate days. Here's an example from the 5th grade math computer adaptive test. The math computer test will assess them on various mathematical skills such as operations, geometry, and math reasoning. In this sample, students are asked to plot the coordinates given onto the graph. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, the test has evolved to where it's not all simply multiple choice. So in this particular case, the students will actually have to demonstrate their understanding of plotting coordinates by actually applying that skill on the graph there. So it's a little more complex. The intent really is to have students demonstrate their knowledge rather than just select from a series of multiple choice. So guessing is much more challenging. Here's an example of the 8th grade math performance task. The students are provided a word problem or a scenario, and then they use the information provided to respond to the questions. For this question, they are asked to write an equation that expresses the relationship between the height of the stack and the number of cups. There are 5 total questions for this part of the performance task, and all will require students to demonstrate various math skills. And again, here we see that the students will need to have an understanding of equations and relationships, especially for this particular math problem, rather than selecting from a series of multiple choice responses. The California Science Assessments will test students on their knowledge of scientific concepts up to the grade level of the assigned test. This example is from the 11th grade science test, and will ask students, or this particular question asks students about their knowledge of molecular reactions. At the top right, we notice that students continue to have access to the support tools to help them while they work. And on this particular test, the toolbar also includes a periodic table, a formulas button, and a calculator. Schools will schedule the science assessment during the year that students, and this is again would be for high schoolers, during the year that the students will complete the science knowledge required for the assessment. For most, that is in grade 11, but some 12th graders may take it if they are finishing up the required science during that year in school. Before continuing, I'd like to take a moment to discuss CAASPP and supports that exist for students with an individualized education plan or an IEP or 504 plans. Students in grades 3 through 12 may have testing accommodations written into their IEP or 504 plan. If that is the case, the appropriate accommodations will be provided during testing for the student. For example, a student with a 504 or IEP may have an accommodation of testing in a small group rather than in the larger classroom setting. Students with IEPs may have accommodations where test questions are read to them, or they may be allowed additional supports not available to most students. 504 and IEP case managers will ensure that all students with these plans have the appropriate accommodations uploaded to the system prior to testing so that students can practice using the additional tools available to them before they begin their assessments. If you are unsure what, if any, testing accommodations are included in your child's IEP or 504, you can review the latest copy of your child's plan or contact your child's case manager. An alternate assessment exists for which some of our IEP students are eligible. The California alternate assessment is designed for students with significant cognitive disabilities, where the IEP team determines they will be unable to participate in the language arts, math, or science tests with only the identified supports and accommodations. Only eligible students may participate in the alternate assessments as determined by their individualized education plan. It is delivered one-on-one in a one-on-one setting by a trained alternate assessment examiner that is also familiar to the student. If an IEP case manager determines that the alternate assessment is a better option for a student, a recommendation will be made and the testing request will be included in the student's IEP. In this example from the third grade alternate assessment, we can see that there is less overall text on the page, and there are colorful photographs to support the understanding of the topics and questions to which students will respond. Another one of the tests included in the CAASPP system is the physical fitness test, and this will be taken by students in grades 5, 7, and 9. The test is a comprehensive battery of health-related physical fitness tests for students in California. It includes 5 parts where students demonstrate a level of fitness that offers a degree of defense against potential diseases caused by inactivity. The 5 fitness areas of the physical fitness test are aerobic capacity, which will include running and walking exercises, abdominal strength and endurance, which will include curl-up exercises, upper body strength and endurance, which will include push-ups and arm hang exercises, trunk extensor strength and flexibility, which will include the trunk lift exercise, and general flexibility, which will include sit and reach and shoulder stretch exercises. Fitness testing generally takes place during the student's regularly scheduled PE class, and the teacher will administer the assessment. This assessment has likely begun at many of our schools, particularly the elementary schools where students only have PE, I believe, twice a week. So in those schools, in order for the teachers to complete all of the testing for all of the students, they may have started the physical fitness testing already. At the secondary level where students have PE every day, this may take place closer to the March through May timeframe that I shared earlier. The English Language Proficiency Assessment, which is the final assessment part of the CAASPP system, is used to measure the growth of English language development for students who are learning English as a second language in grades K through 12. It measures a student's development in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And the assessment is a combination of both individual and group assessments. The LPAC administration has begun at many of our schools. Similarly to the physical fitness testing, some of our schools have more English learners than others. So this assessment may have begun as early as the first week of February. For a more detailed description about the LPAC, we invite you to view the English Learners webinar found in the Office of Family Engagement page of our district website. After all the assessments are completed in the spring, the state of California will provide individual score reports. Some individual CAASPP results are provided to schools as soon as early summer. Others are delayed due to hand scoring that occurs for portions of the test. San Jose Unified will send a communication to families, including instructions for obtaining the report when a majority of the score reports are available in our system, and that will be dependent on when they are received from the state. Performance reports by content area, subgroup, and where schools and districts fall on the California dashboard is released in late fall. Once scores have been uploaded to our student information system, parents will receive instructions on how to access their child's report in the parent portal. Schools will use this as a data point for goal setting for the following school year. However, it's only an initial data point, and once the school year begins and once we start moving along, schools will gather additional ongoing assessment results that will weigh more heavily on future instructional decisions. Parents can use these results as a data point for their child's learning progress, but should also weigh other assessments, work samples, and teacher reports for a comprehensive report of learning progress. Here is a sample of the CAASPP report that parents will have access to for their child. It's a 4-page report. Here I'm only showing the first 2 pages, and it's intended to provide a quick summary of their performance. So here we have, again, the first 2 pages side by side. On the left-hand side, or page 1, we have a brief summary of what the CAASPP assessment is, a description of the different score ranges, which range from level 1, standard not met, to level 4, which is the highest, standard exceeded. And then an overall score for the assessment on the second page, which is on the right-hand side. The report also includes a score history, in this particular case for English language arts, so that parents can compare their students' progress or see how the student has grown over the past few years. The remaining pages not pictured include the same type of information for math and for science. And there are also additional links included on the report where you can review more information about the CAASPP, understanding the score report, and other resources. Parents should have already received information from San Jose Unified regarding the upcoming state assessment windows. One of the items covered in that communication will explain parents' right to opt out of the assessment and instructions for how to request the opt-out. We acknowledge and understand that there may be some circumstances where opting out may be in the best interest of the student, and you have the right to make that request and it will be honored. There are unfortunately some potential negative outcomes if a school district does not meet a minimum testing percentage of 95%. In short, school and district score percentages are penalized for not meeting the minimum target of students tested. If a student is opted out of CAASPP, they will be assigned alternate work to complete while their classmates complete the assessment. This will typically take place in a different classroom where students are not testing at that time. We do ask that you keep in mind that CAASPP scores are included in the criteria used for determining placement or eligibility for certain courses or certain recognitions, so opting out may impact their eligibility for those. Please consult with your child's teacher or your principal if you have any questions about the opt-out. Here we have some resources that you can use to learn more about the CAASPP system or other resources that can support your child's learning. So you can either use the QR code. When I send the recording, I will also include the direct links to each of these sites. So the first link you'll come across is for the CAASPP practice test. These are the exact same practice tests that students will be using in the classroom to become familiar with the test structure, how to log in, how to find the correct test that they will be using. So you can access those to have your students practice at home or just for yourselves to become more familiar with the CAASPP testing format. The second link is for the CAASPP Starting Smarter website, which is a resource hub that will provide quick insights into the CAASPP reports as well as the LPAC reports. Some sample test items, not as extensive as the CAASPP practice test link, but you'll be able to see some test items there. And this is available for families in both English and Spanish. The third link is to the California Department of Education page, where you will find one-page summaries of various California assessments, and these are available in multiple languages. Next, you'll have a link for viewing the sample score reports, similar to what I shared with you moments ago. And you can access score reports for CAASPP, for LPAC, and other assessments that are part of our state system. And you can also view those in multiple languages. There's also a link to a video, which is about 8 minutes in length, that explains the various features of the score reports. So you're welcome to view that to get a deeper understanding of what the report information includes. The following link is for instructions on how to access the score reports in the parent portal. So if your child has taken the CAASPP in prior years and you haven't accessed those reports before, those instructions will show you how to access the score reports and how to find those in the parent portal. And finally, there's a link to the California dashboard where you can look up academic progress for your child's school or for our district as a whole. Many times we are asked how parents can best support their students, especially heading into the CAASPP testing window or the state assessment window. Since it is a summative test and it's intended to to measure and gauge the learning that students have done, since the beginning of the school year up until this point. The best way really that a student can prepare for the assessment is by maximizing their access to instruction, and that happens by attending school regularly. We also suggest that parents stay connected and informed about their child's progress, work with your child's teachers to request additional help when needed, and also by attending meetings or information nights, anything related to the academic programs, the curriculum, and other supports available at the school. There isn't one single assessment tool that can tell us everything about a student's progress, but when you keep lines of communication open with your child's teacher, you know how they're performing with their classwork, with tests, with quizzes, with school and district assessments, you should be able to see a pattern that will provide a strong indicator of how they will perform. Some of our ongoing school and district assessments correlate rather well with performance on state assessments and can be a good indicator of CAASPP performance. During the testing period, once that opens up for your school, parents can help by making sure that students are in attendance, that they are well rested, and have a healthy breakfast in their system before they go to school, ready to start each day. Unlike any other school day, right? We want them to be ready and well fed and in attendance, well rested any other day. So if they're already doing that, they should do very well on this these tasks and just in school in general. We want to thank you for joining us for this presentation. We hope that it was helpful in providing a little bit more information about the CAASPP system. If you have specific questions about your child's participation in the CAASPP, questions about your school's testing schedule or your child's accommodations, if they have an IEP or 504, please contact your child's school so that you can have those questions answered. If you have general questions, please feel free to email our office at the email address on the screen. And once again, we will be sharing the recording. So in there or in the communication with the recording link, I will also include the link to the resources that were shared as well. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope the information was helpful, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event.